A year ago, if you wanted to send money abroad or import something, you would have exchanged the rupee at around 85.5 rupees to the dollar. Today, that same dollar is a little over 94 rupees. As Manifest student said, I am Fuchi, we should be closely looking at the macroeconomic indicators. And I can tell you that for sure, the narratives dominating the headlines are incomplete. The media frames this as entirely a oil story. The conflict in Middle East pushed the oil above $100 a barrel, our imports swell, and rupee fell. That is true, but only a fraction of the story. The uncomfortable truth is that India carried the severe vulnerabilities long before the first shots were fired. The crisis in West Asia simply made them visible all at once. Let's look at it. Last year, most Asian currencies actually strengthened against the dollar, reducing the pressure on their central banks. But India went the opposite. Our rupee weakened by $10, or weakened by 10%, and making it the worst performing currency in Asia by far. Critically, most of this weakness arrived before the late February war. And the standard macroeconomic theory tells us that when the currency falls this far, our self-correction should kick in. A cheaper rupee should make our exports highly competitive and attract foreign capital back in. But that isn't happening. The downward pressure, oil spikes, and supply route disruptions are currently overpowering the valuation forces that would normally pull the currency back up. The real world impact is compounding daily. We are seeing price of electronics, more expensive medicines, and surging aviation fuel costs. And because this trade remains disrupted, the constrained LPG supplies means our fertilizer plants are running at just 65% of their capacity. And these aren't separate problems. They are arriving through the different pipeline but flowing in the exact same direction. And we have been here before. This situation eerily mirrors the build-up to the 1991 balance of payment crisis. Back then, 1990 Gulf War triggered an oil shock that collapsed our forex reserve to just 1 month of import cover. Our response in 1991 was to devalue the rupee by 18 to 22% and to forcefully stimulate the exports. But there is a crucial difference today. In 1991, we paired that with structural reforms, dismantling the Rice's Raj and sliced the tariffs. Today, despite a historically cheap rupee, our exports aren't surging to savings. Why? Because the structural bottlenecks we still haven't fixed. The missing middle in the entire manufacturing setup driven by archaic labor rigidities and historical SSI reservations means we simply do not have the massive labor-intensive mega factories required to capitalize on the cheap currency. We tried leapfrogging to service-led economy, and now our manufacturing base isn't agile enough to act as a shock absorber. So how do we face this? In short term, in 0 to 6 months, the Reserve Bank of India must utilize the forex reserves dynamically. We cannot stubbornly defend a fixed number, but we must realize the excessive volatility to prevent imported inflation from crushing domestic demand. And simultaneously, the government should secure alternative non-Middle Eastern supply chains for LPG immediately and crude oil as well to get those fertilizers plants running back at 100% capacity. In medium to long term, 1 to 3 years, we must fully commit to two-leg strategy. We cannot rely solely on IT services. We need aggressive labor law reforms to unlock large-scale export-oriented manufacturing. If we want a self-correcting currency, we must build the industrial capacity that makes our exports highly responsive to the price drops. The barriers to implementing these measures are immense. Structural reforms face massive political gridlocks. But the most immediate barrier is the sheer unpredictability. The recovery requires the world to believe that the worst is over. The oil will fall and the supply routes will reopen. None of that is settled for sure. Even our central bank is operating in the dark. The RBI's own March 2026 bulletin explicitly states that its data does not cover the full impact of the conflict, and we will have to wait for the later issue to measure the damages. The institution responsible for managing our currency is openly telling us that worst of the March haven't even been formally quantified yet. We cannot control geopolitical conflicts or the price of the barrel of crude. but we can enroll our domestic resilience. For us and the next generation of business leaders, the lesson is clear. A cheap currency is only advantageous if you have the industrial engines built to leverage it. And as Jake Gyllenhaal said, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make the money to buy the ticket first. Until we fix the structural cracks at home, we cannot remain at the mercy of every strong port. Thank you very much. This is Utkarsh Singhal signing off.